Okay, well, let's get started. Peter, Karina, sound like we're good to go? Are you ready to go? All right, here we are. So again, welcome for joining us today to further discuss the new norm for company workplace culture. My name is Lisa Demore, and I am your moderator today. I joined Corporate Essentials in 2017 after working in a similar capacity with Verizon and in the security and safety technology industries. I truly specialize in building teams that understand what customer needs are and delivering solutions that not only even just meet expectations, but actually exceed those expectations on many levels. And I think that's super important in obviously today's environment. I do bring a diversified background in understanding employees and work environments from a variety of industries. I have worked in technology, finance, communications, healthcare, hospitality, and education. Along with me today on our panel, I have with me Peter Lorenz. Peter, would you like to share a little bit about yourself with us today? And thank you for joining Corporate Essentials for the conversation.
Well, thank you, Lisa. And my name is Peter Lorenz. As Lisa mentioned, I am the Director of Operations and Facilities for Cadwalader. Prior to that, I worked for McKinsey Company as Director of Office Services. And then prior to that, I was with Kaye, Scholer and Arnold as the Director of Services for them.
Why, thank you. So I'm sure you have a lot to share with us in a little bit. And along with Peter, we have Karina Catalano. Karina, would you like to share a little bit about yourself with us as well?
Sure. Thank you, Lisa. So I am a senior people operations generalist for an enterprise software and services company based in New York City. So my people love data. And today I'll be chatting a little bit with you about what we do with that data, about our people to, increase employee engagement, participation, performance management system, and just honing in on what is really important to our employees at this time and has been important over the last year. So thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Thanks for being a part of the conversation. Karina, I have to say, I am like a data-driven person, as I think you know a little bit. And I always say it's not, collecting the data, it's what you do with that information and finding the powerful stories that are within that information that give us, the what to do without even having to try to figure it out oftentimes. So I look forward to hearing more about that as we move forward. So here's what we're going to cover today. And of course, we will cover anything additional that we have time for, that time allows. I'm going to ask all of you to please put any questions, comments in the chat or in the questions. We will review that at the end, the Q&A section. So that's probably the best place to put your questions. And if there are any questions that we are unable to get to this afternoon due to limitations or time constraints on our part, then we will be sure actually in follow-up to get those questions answered from Peter and Karina and get that all out to you in the follow-up email in follow-up to this webinar today. As you heard Karina touch on a little bit, we are going to talk about the how we've kept a pulse on employees in a rapidly changing environment, the future of a flexible workplace and keeping teams connected. There's really no new normal, as I like to say. The new normal is what we'll all experience each and every day as we all continue to evolve and move forward. Creatively connecting in a hybrid workplace environment. Procedures or thoughts on minimizing employee burnout. Safety protocols for comfort and added security in the workplace. I know that we had touched on that a few webinars ago on safety and security protocols in the workplace. We had Rich Morrow on with us. If you need his information, be sure to touch base with Corporate Essentials and we'll put you directly in contact with him as well, in addition to what we discussed today. And making the office a destination. We hear a lot more so now than ever before on what it takes to not only attract, but also to retain top talent, but now also get them back to the workplace. So let's jump right in. Karina, before we look ahead, I feel like we've all had to have a bit of a vision and hope over the long 12 months that we've all gone through. Let's, before we look ahead though, let's talk a little bit about the past year. As we all know, everything changed so rapidly, and we have seen quickly teams and companies and individuals adapt in many ways. How have you kept the pulse? How have you, with your, for your company, kept the pulse on employees' thoughts and feelings in a year that just changes week to week?
I will say it is no small feat, but we brought on a new platform, a performance management platform, around halfway through last year. And when we first went remote, we used some of their resources before we kind of paid for that program, but we launched a COVID survey. So COVID-19 survey around April of last year. So we had been working from home for a few weeks and really had no idea what was in store. We kept extending that work from home, 2 weeks, a month. And then
Exactly.
now
I finally said, stop saying
are
2
over a
weeks.
year. Exactly.
Yeah.
So we kind of took those questions. The performance management platform that we are on board with is called Lattice. I'm happy to talk with anybody, after this, if they have questions about it or kind of what we went through to identify the perfect platform for us. But we chose Lattice and just really valued the free resources they had, been providing. So it was, I believe, 20 questions. It kind of asked on the Likert scale, do you strongly agree that your company is providing communication in an effective manner? Or do you feel, that you are up to date with what's going on? And then ask more personal questions. How are you feeling personally? Do you have an adequate setup at home? Are you having struggles with either, being a caregiver or being a parent during this time? So a lot of those pulses that we had really set us up for how do we plan the next few months or year? And then taking that data, and now as we progress a few months, we launched pulse surveys back in September. So every 2 weeks, our employees receive a 5-question notification, and it just asks them, from a scale or, again, that Likert scale. And it's a box of 83 questions. So it cycles through different questions every time that they receive the survey. And it's providing us that pulse for different departments, different managers, different, answers to these questions. And we are understanding, our well-being score. And around November and December, our well-being score had dropped about 10 points. And we were, getting nervous, what's going on. But then we understand, it's a holiday season, it's the end of the year. Our sales team is closing out their metrics, and our finance team is a little bit busier. HR, we're ramping up for performance reviews at the end of the year, and that whole promotion cycle. So there's a lot of things that the data can couple with that you have a pulse on within your organization. So we really utilize those data points and progress on them and look at different changes that are happening.
Gotcha. So it sounds like that Lattice platform obviously was super helpful to you, pretty simple to use. And participation did you get a lot of participation?
Yes. So we always look at participation. We want to make sure that our employees, their voices are being heard and they feel comfortable doing so. So as it is an anonymous feedback tool, it really allows them to feel more comfortable speaking about these things. And, they know where it's going. So at the end of every month, I pull together pulse reports. I'll be working on our March report tomorrow. And we share that with the company. We share their scores. So if well-being is at a 70 out of 100, you're not the only person who may be feeling that. It may be a little bit neutral about all of those questions that are being asked. Do you have enough time to step away from your computer? Do you have friends at work? Are you making meaningful connections? And so we share that information with our employees every month to increase that transparency and really allow them to understand where we're at as an organization. And then we take that information, we try to be as proactive as possible. But if we notice, score trending has been low for a few months in a row, we're going to look into that and figure out ways, do we need to increase communication? Do we need to plan events that are at different times throughout the week and really appeal to all of our employees' schedules? So all of those things that we're looking at is providing us with, just ideas and abilities to change and grow and progress.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Employees love to not only give their opinion, but often I have found and clearly you have found the same as well, that employees have so much to add and so many ideas. And so why not use the minds of everyone, as well as people love to feel included and part of the process and part of the future of what's to be. It makes everyone more comfortable. I also heard you hit on communication, how you communicate not only out what they are feeling, but what the combined responses from what you've gathered from the others on the team, which gives people an enhanced sense of a sense of belonging. I'm not the only one feeling or experiencing this, which is also so important in helping to mentally support people through some of the ups and downs of what we've all been through over the last year, for sure. So let's look ahead a little bit. Pete, I mentioned earlier to you before we jumped on the webinar that, yesterday, after having the vaccine, for me, it was my first day back in New York City. And of course, it was a beautiful day. But, I feel like with vaccinations on the rise for sure, we are looking to, as I like to say, hopefully we're in the, last few miles of this. And those miles are hopefully shorter than, shorter and, a bit of a sprint, if you will, than the previous, 9 to 11 months have been. But we are still obviously going to have a hybrid workforce for a while. What are your thoughts on the future of the flexible workplace and the challenges companies face to keep teams connected? Talk about what you're doing, what your thoughts are. We'd love to hear.
Sure. So there's a couple things. I think first, we obviously first you have your workplace, then you have your building, and then you have getting to your building. So, your transportation is always going to be an issue. People, I always joke that we have the cleanest space in the city, in our offices, and our building's doing a fantastic job, making sure that the place is sanitized and that they've done disinfecting. But then again, people are nervous about just getting there. Transportation, the trains, subways, however you're going to go, is always a concern. And then you always have to think about, what's the work environment going to look like? So are you going to have, fixed seating? Are you going to have assigned seating? Are you going to go with a staggered shift? Are you going to go flex time? Those are some of the things, are you going to have assigned offices? So again, a lot of things to think about, how the work environment is going to look. It really depends on your organization and really what you want to do. And as far as, challenges, I think we've kind of talked about it a little bit, again, just making sure that, your teams are connected either through meetings. We do webinars. The managing partner reaches out there twice a week with a newsletter, or twice a month, excuse me, with a newsletter. And then we also have, it's important that the department managers touch base with their people. One of the areas that's always most challenging is for new people that have started the firm. So when we have new attorneys, for example, they've just come into the firm. They've never even seen the space. They've never been in it. Again, it's a difficult thing for them to sort of get acclimated and be, feel a part of the team and part of the firm.
Absolutely. You hit on, of course, clearly the communication piece again. I heard you mention about, the not only higher level executives in the office communicating with everyone on the team, but just communicating out what's happening. Super important to increasing and enhancing everyone's comfort level during these uncertain times. You said that your office is the cleanest place in the city. I don't doubt that. And actually, that's a super important point. Once our employees are comfortable coming back to the office, having them realize that it is the cleanest place in the office. I know some companies have done, virtual tours. Have you done anything like that where you show them what's happening inside?
Yeah, so we actually hired this company. I don't recall the name right now. They've done a 360 sort of tour, a virtual tour for people to look at, see what's going on, especially for new hires. It's fantastic. So that people can again sort of feel comfortable returning to the office and seeing what the office is like if you've never been there in the first place.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And the getting there is a concern. Some of our clients at Corporate Essentials, I know we've provided them with large amounts of PPE, from masks to gloves and hand sanitizer, that is actually sent not only for the office, but sent to their homes. And it can be sent to their homes too, because then they have actually some of the means for at least those first few days until they're more comfortable, and see how much cleaner everything really is. As I said yesterday, was really a big eye opener. I felt like everything everywhere was much cleaner than ever before in many, many, many years, which was very nice. And then showing people what that office is going to look like, having them understand what the procedures will be for if it's going to be a drop-in desk, how they will sign up and register for that, having those wipes accessible to them, all those points that you hit on, and communicating that to them. So most importantly, they're less apprehensive about coming back. Karina, is there anything you'd like to add there about what your, what your company's thoughts are on the flexible workplace and keeping people connected?
Absolutely. So our office in the city is still closed, at least for the next few months. So we haven't begun to think about, what that looks like when we reopen, but we're really focusing on bringing that flexibility back into our workplace. So my employee population, about half of them are consultants. So they had been previously, at client sites or working remotely for 2 to 3 days a week and kind of sharing desks in the office whenever they were able to pop in. So we are kind of comfortable, if that's the situation that we need to go back to do that. But from an HR and employee engagement perspective, I am always thinking about new ways to make sure that if we do have a hybrid program or if half of our office is still remote, and over the last year, we've been hiring more people who are full-time remote, so across the country or a few states away where they can't commute into New York. So how do we do that? Historically, we were celebrating birthdays in the office every month, and we would all gather around the island and sing happy birthday to our March birthdays and enjoy a little treat. Now that we are remote, I'm sending little treats to our birthday, if you have a birthday within that month, and then we are jumping on a Zoom call for a happy hour or a PowerPoint party. Lisa, I know I've spoken about this to you, but just different creative ways to get people together and still feel connected. And, what may that look like when we're back in the office? I don't know yet, but we definitely want to hold true to our company culture and just keep the fun things that we're always doing and that we did in the office to now stay true and be flexible. So that's where we're going.
Absolutely, for sure. Let's face it, all of those little, the celebrating the birthdays or welcoming new hires. I know Corporate Essentials has provided boxes to employees that are all new hires every month, for birthdays every month, for, a company celebration when they reach a milestone, whether it be a 10-year, 5-year, some kind of funding that the company has received. Those are all opportunities to connect with your teams and keep them connected to the mission and vision of what's happening in the organization, for sure. So we definitely want to be sure we're doing that. And it's good to hear that that's happening out there. I know we have plenty of other clients utilizing those services as well. And I know, Karina, you don't get all of those from us, but in general, Corporate Essentials does offer those as well. And we're happy to provide Karina's information on some of those thoughts, ideas, and resources, as well as through Corporate Essentials. And you began to touch on, which leads me actually right into the next topic, is, there is definitely that social component that people look for in work, where there's collaboration and people have an innate need to, cultivate new relationships. I, say I will do anything possible every day to try to have my people and the colleagues I work with, as well as the people I'm on meetings with, to avoid the Zoom and gloom, as I like to call it. So let's talk a little bit about what kind of events, activities have you created or have you hosted, or do you know others have hosted to, have employees excited and happy about, have some fun in the workplace while everybody's sort of separated.
Mm-hmm. So I touched a little bit about the birthday celebration. So we do that once a month, and my employees love it when I make them sing happy birthday over Zoom. Someone always orchestrates it, and it's just a big laugh at the end. So that's definitely something that we love to spotlight. But our happy hours, for those, we've pivoted to a PowerPoint party. So I got this idea from a pop culture Facebook group I'm in, but
a PowerPoint party, right?
PowerPoint party, yes. So I encourage my employees, if they want to volunteer to participate, to pick a non-work related but safer work topic about something they may be interested in outside of work, and make a few slides and present on that for about 10 minutes. And I normally get 2 to 4 within a given month who want to share. We had someone, talk about their love for their Mazda Miata. We had someone talk about the GameStop phenomenon. So everything, he's into personal finance, and he was going through kind of his, view of that. And then people would jump in and say like, oh, I was a part of like the One Stock Squad, or
Right.
it's just a good opportunity to get to know people on a different level, and not necessarily, if you're seeing your colleagues on calls with clients all day, you're not really seeing them as, their personal aspects. So always try to bring those things in. We've done virtual casino nights. We've done virtual magician shows. We did, I'm trying to think, there's so many. We do coffee chats. So always try to switch up the days and the times that we're doing things, because as much as we would all love to kind of fill up the calendar with that lunch and learn 12 to 1 time slot like we're on today, some people want to step away, and we want them to step away from their laptops during lunch and take that half an hour, take that hour and go walk your dog, or jump on the bike and get a workout in, or just, scroll on your phone, just something to release that, that shackle of being stuck to your computer all day long. Because, let's be real, people are working before work hours, after work hours, on the
Right.
weekends. And I don't like to see that, understanding that people have work that needs to get done, but always encouraging them to connect with others in different ways. And Slack, our instant messenger is like an artery to our culture and our business. And we have a bunch of channels. We probably have hundreds, photography, travel, baking. And some of those were created by employees, not necessarily me as HR. I find that sometimes you label it from HR and it comes from HR and they're like, oh, delete, I don't need to read this. But I'll have employees approach me, hey, I'm really into baking. Can I create a bake club? I'm like, yes, go for it. Create that channel, invite people. And kind of everyone was posting. I mean, baking bread was very popular last year, and everyone was like, do you have any tips? My sourdough's coming out flat, or my starter is dying. So just different things that hone into who your people are and foster that community, and encourage them to, bring that forward and allow that to just grow organically.
Wow, you have a lot going on there. And it's also,
Yes.
it's so diversified and impressive all at the same time, but it gives people the opportunity to choose what's of interest to them or learn about something new, which is all great points. Peter, is there anything that you are doing over at your firm?
So yeah, sometimes we do the Zoom happy hours as well, but we'll have special guests come on. So whether it's when it was in February and we were trying to have some more diversity and culture within the firm, we actually had we had some people talk about the Tuscany Airmen and the fantasticness that they did and contributed. We also had a group come in and talk about diversity in the workplace and women empowerment. So we've done that. We have special kind of topics. We also do trivia, it's kind of like trivia pursuit questions. We do that happy hour as well. So that's fun. I know firms have done things like they've had fireside chats where they come in and they learned about a different person within your organization that you might not typically know, about them and how they got started, and sort of hear their career path. And then also there's also times when the managing partner will come on and talk about things going on and happening in the event in the firm itself. So it's interesting to hear about that as well.
Yeah, all of these opportunities, why thank you. All of these opportunities are clearly, a way for us to have that casual conversation and get to know people that we would normally have passed by in the office or had some other sort of interaction with, or gone out for a drink with after work, or had a little reception, after hours at the office. And so creating the space for these natural engagements and natural interactions is really important, is what I'm hearing from all of you. And I think that as this progressed, we realized further as the months went on, the need to do more and more of that, for sure. Not only in small group, but from different levels. And then also the opportunity, like, as you mentioned, Pete, you mentioned the cross-functional, let people that they normally wouldn't work with on a regular basis get to know someone else within the company, and not only know them, but as you know them, you get to understand more of what they do. And that definitely helps to build, a really effective, cohesive team. Pete, as in your firm, are there any sort of, Karina touched on this, and in your firm, are there any sort of employer policies or procedures that you have or will be putting in place, or to help employees prevent that burnout, so that they're not working 24/7 around the clock? And
Yeah, so one of the things, that we really try and encourage, and again, every company says that they do this, but we really try and encourage it. People forget, I think that, and I do it constantly myself. I'll think, oh, I can shoot out an email at 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night. And, now my expectation isn't that someone's going to be answering it, but I think when you get an email, you're, quick sometimes to answer it or, reply to it.
yes,
So we really try and, give people, remind them that there's a work time. So there's office hours, if it's 9 to 5, that you really should try and adhere to that. Now, of course, there's times it goes a little longer, like even if you were sitting in your office, that might happen.
right.
Really trying to make sure that we live by that. And then, giving people a half hour or an hour, during the day for their lunch. You're entitled to that. Get up, go out and stretch. You can't sit at your desk doing Zoom, meetings for 12 hours straight or 6 hours straight, whatever the case may be. So again, we really try and encourage that. Get up, 15 minutes in the hour and just stretch your legs. Walk around a little bit. Go downstairs if you're up in on your office, or if you need to get a little walk outside, try and do that if you can. So those are all things that we try and encourage. And it's difficult. Obviously, everyone has work, things going on, and other family members in the house, and I know those have to be dealt with. And someone had asked the question, do we have sort of rules that or etiquette that we try and talk to our people about? We don't actually, but it's kind of interesting sometimes to just see all this stuff. Suddenly you'll be seeing a Zoom call and a little kid comes running by or a cat goes running through. It kind of realizes, these are, especially when you have a senior director or a senior team member on there, and it's kind of humanizes it a little bit. Like, wow,
Absolutely.
I'm going through they're going through this too, and it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So yeah, there's definitely importance of being sensitive. I heard a lot about being sensitive to what's happening in other people's lives and in their worlds, while still understanding that we are working while we are maybe working from home and some from in the office, but just being cognizant of when we're maybe disrupting somebody's their off time. I know that some companies have, no Zoom meeting Fridays to allow people to have time to regroup and recuperate, if you will, and get some of their own, if you will, work done independently without sitting down meeting after meeting after meeting, on the screen. Karina, anything to add to that?
Sure. So my, idea around kind of reducing employee burnout in terms of events goes, because all these events I'm talking about that we're doing, and we try to fill our calendar just as much as possible, not in a way to put pressure on employees like they need to attend every single event, but to provide them with different outlets or topics or interests that they might want to pop into if they have the capacity, or if they're working that day, or maybe they can't attend because they're on vacation, and just encouraging them, if you want to pick one or two out of the 10 different topics or events that we're working on for a month, that's great. Show up, be present, participate, interact, get to know somebody and really connect in different ways. And if that's not being on camera, or unmuting, it's chatting with someone in Slack. We have a great bot within Slack called Donut that pairs 12 sets of employees every week with a random colleague. And some people face chat, that's their method of communication. Some people answer the icebreaker question and kind of leave it at that. And it's always interesting for me as HR, I'm meeting our new hires, I'm going through onboarding, I'm getting to know them a little bit, but then to have an icebreaker question that kind of just further peels away those layers, and you get to know someone as a person and not necessarily, as HR versus employee. So
right. You're creating a natural platform for that to happen, to the level to which someone's comfortable in their own level of engagement, which is really important, is what I heard there. I will tell you, Pete, you said earlier about making sure people get up, take a break, get something to drink, get something to eat. If any of you haven't seen, feel free to tune into Corporate Essentials on all our social media channels. We do Wisdom Wednesdays, and Wisdom Wednesdays are focused on, healthy snacks, what you can grab to drink if you're having like an afternoon lull. We have an exercise specialist coming on about some stretches you you can do to prevent neck fatigue and achy back. I mean, maybe they're the miracle worker. I don't know. I think I sit too long now these days. I've tried to stand at my stand-up desk and sit sometimes, but everybody, being open to new ideas is definitely the way to learn more about how to not only feel appreciated, but to avoid that burnout. So feel free to tell any of your teams to join into the added content that we're trying to provide as a value add to not only all of our clients, but our audience out there that's looking for support and resources. What kind of safety protocols, Pete, let's talk about the safety protocols that you are putting into the office. What are you doing in your space? What have you done to help for employees to feel more comfortable? Let's face it, it's, you have to do a lot to absolutely increase their feeling of comfort and safety.
Sure. So again, as I kind of talked about in the beginning, we've made sure that we've done extra, sanitizing and disinfecting our office above and beyond the normal cleaning. All of our touch points get done daily, if not twice a day. Really, again, trying to make, the space as clean as possible. If we have somebody in an office, making sure that we follow up and make sure that that office is, maybe taken out of service for the evening if it's after they leave, so we can make sure the housekeeping gets that taken care of and it's ready for next day. We use assigned office seating if we need to. We're trying keeping people right now while we have this minimum number of people in the office. We're about a 450 person office and we only have about 20 people going in the office, maybe 25. So again, it's pretty easy to contain where they are. But again, just trying to make sure that we are, even in the restrooms, making sure that we have, and you touched about a little bit, hand sanitizer, wipes, gloves available. And we're making sure that the space is neat and we're separating, distancing people, every other sink potentially, or, or urinal if it's a men's room, or a toilet if it's a ladies' room, whatever the case may be. And again, working with the building management company to make sure that the elevators, for example, we're having social distancing in the elevators, or that we're having the wipes available in the hallways or in the elevator lobbies. So we've also upgraded our filters for our filtration system. We've gone from a MERV 8, which is your traditional filter. We've gone up to a 13 now. So again, taking more particulate out of the air, making it, again, a little bit more clean potentially as people come in the environment. We also encourage, obviously, actually enforce as you come into the building, you have to have a temperature check. The building does that automatically. You'll have to wear a mask as soon as you walk in. And we have the same thing when you're walking through outer space, you're required to wear a mask. So those are some of the things that we've been doing.
Those are a lot of the things you've been doing, Peter, for sure. A lot of the things. So I heard a lot about signage. So that it's top of mind. Of course, that signage won't stay there forever, but to begin with, it's important. I know yesterday in the offices that I was in having meetings, it made me very comfortable. There was actually the space that I was in yesterday when I walked into the building on Madison Avenue. They typically would have had 2 security guards at the reception desk. So they had one acting as the security guard and the other sort of as a concierge. I thought it was an excellent idea. He asked me if I had, it's sort of like if you go to, when you go to a restaurant, they ask you if you've dined with them before, and they go over sort of the experience you can expect. And that was what I experienced yesterday in this building. The minute I walked in, before they even took my temperature, I thought that lobby concierge was a great idea. And as I said, I'd been in this building before, so I recognized the security officers. And they explained to me what to expect from the footprints that are on the elevator floors, and only to go in if there was a pair of footprints available to stand on, as well as they had the antimicrobial on the elevator buttons. And there was a sign that said, like, please do not remove the covering you see on the buttons. This is there for your protection. Really end to end, I was pleasantly surprised. And I thought to myself, wow, this definitely not only enhances the safety, but it brings it top of mind, because when people see safety and security measures and protocols happening, it's human nature. When you see it, you believe it. And yeah, I mean, it's just the way the mind works. And so seeing all of that worked. I mean, it worked really well for me, but not only because I'm here talking about it today. As I mentioned at the beginning, and working with the cruise lines years ago, the one thing I will say is they purposefully used to clean during the daytime when they knew people were out and about. They want you to see that the space is clean. And so have an attendant in your workplace, have those people that can be cleaning, wiping down, have surface wipes available, Clorox wipes, Lysol wipes available, things that will even allow your own people to wipe down a space or a table if they feel most comfortable doing that. And another thing that we could talk a little bit about, we're working with a lot of companies on putting in, changing their break rooms around. And Corporate Essentials will do a complimentary, no obligation break room analysis for any of you, whether you're a customer or not a customer. We're happy to take a look and make recommendations for you on how you can reduce touch points in your break rooms, around your office, in your space, which again, just at the beginning especially, is a really great way to make people feel a lot more comfortable. There are a lot of sensors, QR codes that can be easily implemented into what already exists there to make it more comfortable for everyone. There are many companies too, and I don't think I heard this, but if I did, I apologize. I know a lot of companies have taken a lot of time in not only separating and assigning desks, but where that can't be done, putting partitions and separators. Yeah,
Right.
have you seen that as well?
Yeah, we've done that, some plastic partitions at sort of our reception desk or in between some of our areas, alternating. So if we have an open secretarial space station, maybe 6 or 8 stations alternating, maybe only using one side, and then, alternating with some plexiglass if need be. So again, really trying to, make it, again, just feel. If you want to do an interesting experiment, throw out a little dot that says stand here and watch people, they'll run to that spot. When you're standing in front of a reception desk, people just are drawn to it. So it's really funny to see that.
It is. It's interesting you say that. I noticed that actually when I went to my vaccine, everybody was very cognizant of the spots on the floor as they moved forward in line. So that definitely speaks to me. Okay, let's keep going here. Karina, I know you mentioned that you're still a little bit out, but I'm sure you're all thinking about this as you are doing your Lattice platform surveys. But Pete or Karina, Pete, we'll start with you. Aside from the safety protocols, what steps are you taking in your offices? And do you know others like you in the same role in other companies? What are they doing to get their teams excited to return to the office this year?
So we kind of talked about it a little bit. So again, that 360 video, letting people see what the office looks like. I think somebody said it in the chat, the perception is reality. So when you're out there and they see cleaning people, making sure the space is, wiped down throughout the day. We also have, we've gone kind of to having an attendant where we can, in some of our pantry areas. And then other things that we've done, kind of a touchless. Your firm, for example, your company, I know, has a touchless coffee machines. And again, we're trying to upgrade where we can to just make that a little bit, or a one-touch system where you're not, and we're putting hand sanitizer by those and wipes again. So just trying to make it as friendly as possible and making it just a good environment for the people returning.
Absolutely. Karina, did you have anything to add to that, or are we not there yet at your company?
We're not there yet, but I could still add just some thoughts that
Excellent.
are coming to mind now. So I think from a culture perspective, just that open communication and telling employees, once you're ready to return to the office, what it's going to look like, what to expect. Is the floor plan going to change? I know being, a data tech company, we definitely embrace that open floor concept, and the game room with that ping pong table and the shuffleboard and the gaming chairs and the public Xbox. So it's like, what does that turn into, and how can we try to keep some of those opportunities for employees to meet, and not necessarily just at the water cooler? What is gathering around the kitchen island going to look like? What is the coffee machine going to look like? So all of those things will come into play, but as we prepare to go back in a few months, just letting them know, we're still going to be hosting birthday celebrations on Zoom.
Absolutely.
So if you are permanently remote, dial in. But if we're in the office, maybe we can social distance, or, turn those ice pops or the cakes that I was cutting into like single portion food items or snacks. What does the snack cart going to look like? My employees loved that. It's not going to be where you can scoop out of the big glass container anymore, but there's still going to be good options. And those things are going to be exciting and for you to look forward to. And we hope to not take anything away, but to match it at a level where it kind of brings back that sense of normal. And, this is what the new at office experience is going to be like.
Absolutely, without a doubt. So you touched on a lot of things here. If we think back to 9 months ago, the initial reaction was, oh my goodness, we have to just stop everything. Don't do this, don't do that. Everybody evacuate the place. And now as we've evolved in this conversation, we're actually now to a point, and as Peter said earlier, our office is the cleanest place. That is actually such an important point for employees to really grasp and hold on to. And then companies are obligated to provide what the employees need more so now than ever before in the workplace. Because the more you can keep your employees in, and there's plenty of research and studies about it now, that the less interaction you have, outside of the office with strangers, like once you get to work, you want what you need there to keep your teams hydrated, fueled, refreshed, fed. And so, as you said, the layout, Karina, may change and the look from all of the bulk snacks to transitioning to individually packaged snacks that are appropriately placed in maybe more snack stations throughout the office than in just one central location. That's one of the things that we look at with you to help you to determine where it makes sense to minimize traffic and flow during those typically heavy times that would be to some of the common areas or common break rooms without eliminating it. Just break it out into smaller, groups. But, the more you can do and the more we can provide to our employees when they return to the office, the more comfortable, the more satisfied they definitely will be. In addition to that, I can tell you, corporate essentials, it's not the focus today, but just to mention it, we do have a lot of companies that have reached out about doing, these sort of soft grand reopenings or back to the office parties. And so there's lots of food options out there, fresh catered food that otherwise prior would have been in a buffet, where now it's all single safe serve for each individual, from like the appetizers to entree foods, to even something you'd have for just like a sweets and treats event as a small celebration. So there's lots of options out there. Be sure to reach out to those on the panel here, to other companies, to Corporate Essentials. Sharing the information of what others are doing is how we all will be able to do this better and together rebuild a really robust back in the office workplace environment for sure. So before I summarize a bit, there's some questions here in the chat. And so what is everyone doing as far as daily catered lunches? We had a buffet lunch offered to us prior. Any ideas on what companies are doing for individual lunches? Are either of your companies offering lunches in the new or did you offer lunches before, and do you have any plans yet going forward?
So we haven't had enough people right now, so the people have been either going out where they can or bringing their lunch, and eating in their office or at their desk. But it is a nice excuse for you to get out. When I go in 1 day a week right now, so it gets me out of the building. I go down to the street. There's a deli, luckily it's open for me, so I'll run in there and grab a sandwich. I did at my previous firm, what we were doing was we were having, box lunches. You could actually order a lunch ahead of time. We had a limited menu, and you could order, 2 or 3 items, and then they would have that ready for you at a certain time, and you'd pick it up downstairs, and sort of one of the pantries was open, and they would have an attendant, and it'd be ready. Now, we are lucky at my prior firm to have sort of the staff there to be able to do that. Not everybody has that, obviously.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So I can tell you from Corporate Essentials, our catering division is Martin and Fitch, and we do provide, and we have been providing, and will continue to provide everyday lunch meal programs, breakfast meal programs, dinner meal programs, happy hour, brand launch, product kickoff events, all of that. We have changed the format, but we pride ourselves on customizing exactly what it is that is best for your office environment. Right now, everything, as I said earlier, is all single serve, and it's all very well labeled to still meet all of the dietary requirements and restrictions in the office. And the orders can be placed ahead of time at whatever the cadence is that's right for your office based on the volumes that are there. That's the first question. The next question is, how do we get a free assessment of the break room? So to get a free assessment or complimentary assessment of the break room, reach out to Corporate Essentials. My contact information will be on the last slide. Get in touch at drinkcoffee.com. Or to me directly. And as I said at the end, my contact information will be there. And Corporate Essentials, honestly, we've been in this business for 25 years. So we have not only been there at the beginning when sort of providing more than just coffee became a thing. We've actually evolved by listening to our customers and providing what they need and what they wanted at the point that it was being asked for. And so we've made sure that we have continued throughout the last 12 months to stay well informed, to understand what safe serve practices are, to have the latest in the technology and break room equipment and offerings for reducing touch points. So just get in touch with us and we're happy to help. Like I said, and the next question, all of these COVID protocols and the measures that we're talking about, Pete, what do you think? Do you think that these are here to stay? Is this the new normal? What about the cleanliness? What about all these new protocols?
Yeah, I think you hit it right there. I think you hit it right on the nose. I think it is the new norm. I think really. So, like us, we're hoping to get everybody back in September, or the majority of our staff. Again, we only have a limited number of people coming in now. It's not like all of this is just going to, it's kind of like we saw over the months when we potentially talked about people come back. Oh, we'll be back in 3 weeks. We'll be back in 6 months. We'll be back right after Labor Day. Things don't just suddenly happen. I think it's always evolving. So I think, cleaning and disinfecting is going to continue. There might be sometimes. So let's say we come back in December. I think there's a good chance you're going to be there 6 months, hopefully not a year, but I mean, there's a chance after you get back that you're going to be doing a lot of this for a long time after. I think it's going to be some of the expectation. We'll just have to see. There's a number of things going on. How long is it going to take for everyone to get vaccinated? What's going to happen with these different variants that are going on. So again, even as more people are getting vaccinated, we still see these numbers going up in some states, including ours. So we'll have to see how that all, works out.
For sure. Absolutely. I think we can all agree that, the what was will not be what is, but I always say that who's not to say it's a better place, right? Like, we only knew what we knew at that point. So I'm super excited about a lot of what we see and what I've seen and where it's going.
I mean, if you think about COVID real quick, many companies never thought they would do a work from home. No, it's not possible. There's no way we can do it. And here you are now. Unfortunately, what COVID did is it forced companies to be a little bit more, a little more dynamic, I guess, to, figure out a way to make things happen, so we are doing it now. And, I think when it comes back, I think you're going to have things like staggered schedules. I think you're going to have things like flex time. I think, these are all things where we sort of saw and people were like, some companies were doing it. I think a lot more, reading about it now, companies are really, that's going to become, again, part of the new norm.
Yeah, the new norm definitely is a more personal approach. It's been a long time since, a lot of us have felt like, there's more to just what an organization wants. It's also about what we as people not only want, but what we need in, making our whole self, comfortable, gratified, all those kinds of things. And so to summarize a bit, we talked about how, over the past with the Lattice platform, Karina's company, it's just one idea, but Karina's information will be at the end of this presentation and sent out to you as well. How to use a platform to get the pulse if you haven't yet on your teams, to include them in the conversation. People love to be part of the solution. They love to be heard. And also it gives you the opportunity to learn from all those great people that work for you in a time when sometimes they've never had the opportunity before to, voice or give their opinion. the future of the flexible workplace that Pete just added more points on, and keeping teams connected while managing the various cohorts, flexible schedules, as well as the hybrid environment. Procedures and thoughts, really practices to minimize employee burnout. I know I can be rather compulsive about work. It's just who I am and the cloth I'm cut from. But I'm very cognizant of making sure we take that time, the importance of taking the time to shut down, to do something else, to go for a walk or do whatever it is that interests you. As Karina said earlier, mindlessly scroll on my phone, which honestly, I actually come across a lot of great articles. There's a lot of information out there that others are sharing that can be a resource to you in just reading some of those articles that are on LinkedIn or other social media platforms. I know we at Corporate Essentials really are trying to cascade that information out to all of our followers, viewers, clients, customers, and even those that aren't, because again, I believe together everybody wins. It's who I am personally and professionally. And so that's why we've taken on a bit of this platform. And then making your office a destination. Yes, there's the top brewer out there that Pete talked about, which is the touchless, hey Siri, make me a cup of coffee. But all of the things that Karina talked about, like the pool table or the ping pong table and the games and activities, whether it be, yoga on Wednesday evenings after work or in the morning, where it's also in person and virtually, making that office a place that employees want to come back to, when people are comfortable, they engage, they're not apprehensive. And guess what? When they engage, they tell others about it. It starts this like really positive, upbeat, high energy buzz, which is what we all want to continue to build as we return to the workplace. I just checked the questions. Are there any more questions? Let me just look at the chat here a minute. I see something popped up here on the chat. We got some thank yous. I will tell you that I'm going to be sure that we include the platforms that Karina mentioned they use to connect to their people, in addition to the Lattice platform. In our follow-up email to you, you will all receive this deck as well. You'll have that. We posted on our social media channels pretty much within 24 hours of this webinar today. Here's the contact information for Peter and Karina. And if for some reason you're unable to locate it after the fact, again, get in touch at drinkcoffee.com, get in touch at drinkcoffee.com, or through my information. There is my direct information as well as general inquiries. Don't hesitate to call me. I'm here to help. Super busy, may take me a little bit to get back to you, but we're all super busy and it does matter to me. We do care. The others at our team care, from the owner of our company, Judson Kleiman, down to the entire team, from the delivery drivers who take every step of the way to make sure that they are as safe as possible in our end-to-end fulfillment of your services. We are all happy to help. And so don't hesitate to reach out to us. I thank you all for joining us today on behalf of Corporate Essentials, and Peter and Karina. Thank you for sharing your expertise, your information, your advice. If any of you with us today have something you'd like to share with our team in our next webinar, please reach out to me. We do have a big lineup of content, but I'd love to get you in the mix. So let's talk about it. Let's continue the conversation. Have a great day, a good week. Stay safe, get vaccinated, be well. Bye all.
Have a good day.
Thank you.